I have a question in regards to going all the way. When I hear that, I think of a book that I read as a teenager, and there's a quote from this book. The quote is, "The seventh level can be really confusing, as is the one where people give up their individuality and go back into the Godhead, that is, the uncreated mass of God. This is an uncommon experience, as I've only met one person in all the readings that I've done who was on this level. He was a priest and the head of a theology department at a university, who told me that he didn't want to keep his identity. Instead, he wanted to go back into God." Then the question continues. "Certain religions believe that to attain this state means to perfect one's soul through living enough lives and by becoming one with God in eternal bliss. They don't have to endure any more earthly existences. But we can do so without losing our divine identity, and most of us do just that. Even with all of his magnificent involvement, Jesus is still in his glorified body at home. How do you explain going all the way? Did Swami Sri Yukteswar not go all the way, as he explained to Yogananda in his book?" And this is a quote from Autobiography of a Yogi. "As prophets are sent on earth to help men work out their physical karma. So I've been directed by God to serve on an astral planet as a savior," Sri Yukteswar explained. "It is called Hiranyaloka, or illumined astral planet. There I am aiding advanced beings to rid themselves of astral karma and thus attain liberation from astral rebirths." So there's a lot in this question, this email. And the idea of going all the way, and Mr. Davis, my Kriya yoga teacher, would speak to this often, particularly when he would discuss his interactions with Paramahansa Yogananda. Because Paramahansa Yogananda would say, "You must go all the way, and you can." That's how he would talk to Mr. Davis. And so we have to ask ourselves, what does it mean to go all the way? Well, first of all, it is incomprehensible, meaning the mind can't conceive of what it's like to go all the way. So even to say things like, you give up your individuality and go back into the Godhead, the uncreated mass of God, and so on. Well, those are just words, and they don't really help us understand. They can help us think about a potential or a possibility, but they're just words, they're just ideas, they're just models. And the idea of attaining a state where one's soul is perfected through enough lives, this allows you to become one with God in eternal bliss. Well, this also needs a model or a philosophy to go with it. Now, for example, what do you think the soul is? People are going to have different answers to that. You ask me what the soul is, I think it's just a collection of your personality traits, your likes, your dislikes, your energy signature, and so on. It's what makes you feel like you are a you. Other people might think it's this pure essence. It just really depends on how you define these things. And even the idea of living enough lives, well, in a way that is accurate, because we are all going through one experience after another. We're all going through one experience after another. And you can look at it using that theory of reincarnation, where I have this life, I had a life before it, I had a life before that, and so on. But most of you are old enough that you probably feel like you've already lived multiple lifetimes. I can think of many different stages of my own life where I was radically different. When I look back to it, it's as though I am in a different life now. So if we're using this idea of a soul, and let's pretend we're using the idea of the soul as your pure essence of being, well, the pure essence of being is always here. It's never not here. Yours is here, whether you believe it or not. But many of us are attached to and identified with particular experiences. And so we're going to keep having those experiences until we're tired of them. So we can become tired of them just because we've had enough, or we can become tired of them because we've engaged in spiritual practice and we just aren't interested in it anymore. And so in a way, our soul is coming back to creation again and again, even several times throughout the day, experiencing life until eventually it decides it wants to let go of all of that and return to an inner state of clarity and awareness. And when you begin practicing Kriya Yoga, that's what you're affirming. And then you choose to do things which pull you back, which identify you with spirit, which identify you with this idea of soul as, we'll say again, infinite pure essence. And eventually you just don't want to go out anymore. You don't want to go and do the things. You don't want to go have the dramas that everyone else has. You don't want to just go have sex and then eat food and then try to become successful at something and then get old and die again. You don't want to keep doing that. You finally want to settle into a space of tranquility. And so in a way, that's happening all the time. Now, as far as Jesus being glorified in his own body at home, well, I don't know anything about that. I'm not Christian. I've looked over that stuff, but that's just another philosophy to me. If you want to have a little bit of a sense of maybe some of my philosophical wonderings, if you go to the most recent podcast on the Kriya Yoga podcast, episode 108, which is on Kriya Yoga and the end of suffering, at the very end, Phil McLemore and I, if I recall correctly, it's been a while since we recorded it, we talk about this idea of divine, the persistence of the I, the persistence of yourself. So anyway, that's just some philosophical stuff, which is okay to tap into every now and then. But next, did Sri Yukteswar go all the way? And I'm assuming there's this question, did he go all the way? Because he's saying, well, I am on an astral plane acting as a savior on this illumined planet. Well, here's the thing. To go all the way, you can be all the way there right now, sitting there drinking your tea, watching the screen. You could go all the way. You could be already all the way there, going on a bike ride up a mountain. You can be all the way and still the body, the mind, the personality is active and engaged. So Sri Yukteswar could be all the way, right? But all the way means that you are consciously aware of what you truly are. And if you are consciously aware of what you truly are, you can play any role. You can be on an astral planet called Hiranyaloka acting as a savior. You can be the person coming up the road putting your garbage in a truck. You can be a gardener. You can be a doctor. You can be a beggar. You can be a madman. You can be a musician. You can be a banker. You can be any of those things. But you're not those things. You are infinite consciousness, essence, spirit flowing through all these experiences. And that's happening anyway. So the difference between someone who's gone all the way and someone who hasn't gone all the way is that the one who has gone all the way knows what they are, while the body, the mind, and the personality are engaged in the specific role that they are meant to be engaged in the world. So did Sri Yukteswar go all the way? I can't make a definite answer on that, but my sense is probably. Did Roy Eugene Davis go all the way? My sense of that, being with him, talking to him, studying what he shared and what he found was important, I can't argue that he didn't. But again, I don't know. But it seems to me that he has. And again, this is something that you can't really make that judgment about other people. You can only come to the knowledge of it yourself, right? You can come to the knowledge of it yourself. Because there are numerous spiritual texts that kind of describe that the outward expression of someone is not necessarily that which defines them as a spiritual being, because there are plenty of people in spiritual roles who are as far from gone all the way as possible. And they're no different than any other charlatan or con person trying to take advantage of another person. Then they don't even know it, which makes it worse. So you can't judge someone in that regard. You can try to get a sense of it by how they live their life and the effect that life has on the world. You can try to do it that way. You can also have the sense of a person's development by, in a sense, how you feel around them, how easy it is to meditate around them, how easy it is for yourself to be in a state of tranquility and self-realization. And again, those are the judges that I use when I interact with students. I'm not judging students, by the way. It's just wrong choice of words. But when I was with Mr. Davis, or when I would visit other potential spiritual teachers that I knew, that's what I went by. I would get to know them. I would see how I felt around them. If they recommended a certain practice, I would try that practice and see, is this of actual benefit to my own spiritual growth? And ultimately, this idea of going all the way, it is well worth keeping in mind. It is well worth keeping in mind. But we have to remember that you, as infinite spirit, it's there right now. You just might not be looking at it, or you might not have developed the capacity or the skill to feel it, to abide as it. So it's not something unattainable. It's just a redirection of awareness. It's really what it comes down to. And that's why in that saying, before enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. Well, that's why. Because whether you're enlightened or not, you still got to chop wood and carry water as long as the body, the mind, and the personality is functioning, is existing. But the enlightened person knows that they are the essential essence, the eternal timeless being, which transcends all of that. And that's what we're aiming to do with our Kriya Yoga practice, is to become aware of that. And so how do you go all the way? Well, you can kind of tangle with a lot of these philosophical ideas and books and things that other people say and wonder, well, did Sri Yukteswar do it, and so on. You can do that. But in order to go all the way, you simply have to find a path that has stood the test of time. Find a teacher or a lineage of teachers which actually embody what it is you want to experience, and then do what is recommended. Not overthink it, just do it.